Hello everyone, welcome back to class. And in today's lesson, we will be continuing on with the topic of chemical equations with the concept of balancing a chemical equation. So a little bit of recap on what we did in the previous lesson. We discussed and talked about what is a chemical equation, as well as the different parts of a chemical equation. So moving on from there, I talked about how coefficients can actually be used to balance a chemical equation. So in order to understand why we balance a chemical equation in the first place, we have to look at the law of conservation of mass. So the law of conservation of mass states that matter cannot be created nor destroyed. Which simply means that in a chemical reaction, the amount of matter that is used as the reactants must be the same as the amount of products that are formed from the chemical reaction. So, balancing a chemical equation will ensure that this law is obeyed in our chemical reaction. And so how do we balance our chemical equation? As stated, we will have to write down coefficients or number coefficients in front of the chemical within the reaction. Now, it is important that we do not write numbers in the subscript area, because the subscript represents the number of atoms in the particle, and by changing that number of atoms will essentially change the nature of the chemical itself. However, by writing numbers or number coefficients in front of our chemical, it would simply state the number of particles itself that is needed in order for the chemical reaction to occur. So taking this example here from the previous lesson, we can see that hydrogen and oxygen will react with each other to produce water. But as we can see, if the number coefficients were not present, then there will be an imbalance in the number of oxygen on the left and the right hand side of the equation, which means that there are fewer oxygen atoms, which essentially means that you have destroyed one oxygen atom. As we all know, that is not true, or that cannot happen. So what we can do in order to ensure that the number of oxygen, hydrogen remains balanced on each side is we add the number 2 in front of hydrogen, and we then also add another 2 in front of water. So if you look at the overall equation, there would be 4 of hydrogen, there would be 2 of oxygen, and on the right hand side, it's the same thing. There would be 4 hydrogen atoms, and 2 oxygen atoms. So this would show that the amount of matter used in the chemical equation would be the same as the amount of products that is formed from the chemical equation. And well, that's the reason why we would have to balance our chemical equation. And so that would be our lesson for today. And in next lesson, we would learn on how the coefficients can actually be used to help quantify a chemical reaction, and also to solve problems regarding chemical equations. So until then, stay tuned and take care.